Good evening, all, and welcome to our LinkedIn Live event. This is Marjorie Wharton, the host for LinkedIn Local Barbados. As usual, we are here for our online event. And as usual, we have a fantastic guest with us this evening. Welcome to you, Miss Katrina Ifill.
Hi, thank you so very much for having me, Marjorie.
Happy you could join us, and we are going to spend the next hour talking to Katrina about her journey, about her businesses, about what she's done in order to market, to brand those businesses, about the kind of creativity it takes to really be a woman in entrepreneurship and definitely in the kind of business that she offers as a health professional who's caring for female health issues. So we'll get into that more. As always, as I mentioned, I am the host for LinkedIn Local Barbados. And as you may know, LinkedIn Local Barbados is a part of LinkedIn Local Caribbean. And our goal with these types of events is really to give our community an opportunity to connect, to learn from people who are making the journey, who are working themselves to achieve outcomes, to achieve their own objectives. And the idea is that the more we talk about our successes, the more that we talk about what we've learned along the way, the greater our opportunities to grow our own individual activities, and the more we increase our chances of achieving success. So we're all in this together, and we are all going to grow stronger together. And so, Miss Katrina, very happy that you were able to say yes. Very happy to say as soon as I reached out to you and asked you if you were available, you were on board with the opportunity. And I know that you've also participated in one of our events, our in-face events, face-to-face
Yes,
event. You
yes,
had you had come to.
that's what sold me actually. That face to face, I was blown away from that first experience. So then when you asked me, I was like, oh yes, definitely. To be part of that LinkedIn local, definitely.
Okay, so glad to hear that. So let's start by you telling us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm Katrina. I am a sensual empowerment leader, and I'm also the creatrix of a system that I created called Orgasmik Intelligence. I have I'm a graduate of Howard University, so hailing for Bison's, HU, and I have special training in women's female pelvic anatomy and physiology as a female pelvic health coach. I'm also a certified massage therapist, but communications, that's the foundation of who I am. I am a communication specialist by birth. I'm on the Gemini by profession, my qualifications, and my career choices. Everything has always been communication. And I've used, yeah, so I've taken that communication aspect and married it with what I do. So communicating with my clients and with people in general is just something that comes naturally, which I really do enjoy. I'm a mother of four, three
Okay.
boys and one girl, and I am in a happy, committed relationship. And pretty much, I love what I do. I enjoy working with people on the whole, but I've honed it in a sense, but narrowed it down. Well, I wouldn't say narrow it, but I would say in recent times the focus has been mostly on women, working with women, and I've found it to be actually my calling. How did I know it was my calling? It was just this sensation, this feeling that just filled my heart and my soul and my entire being when I said, you know, that's what I want to do. So it's just my calling.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good because a lot of people don't even get to identify their calling, far less be able to have the bravery to actually start or following it. So I'm very glad to hear that you are in the process of following yours and you are finding those that bliss and the success from doing it. But you did say something there that immediately it grabbed my attention. You said, or you described yourself as communicator from birth, and then you mentioned Gemini. So of course, immediately I'm like, well, what does one have to do with the other? So I'm curious enough to ask, what does one have to do
Okay,
with the other?
yeah, one of the traits of Gemini is we're communicators. on
Ah,
the sign Mercury. And when Mercury is in retrograde, it affects communication. Mercury
okay.
is Gemini
Sure.
sign,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, so that's a little astrology there in between there. But yeah, Gemini, one of our traits is supposed to be effective communication.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay. Well, now I
yeah,
know too. I did not know that. So, any of you Geminis out there who did not know that, now you know that's one of your traits. And if you've
yeah.
always been told you're good at it, now you
No,
know
you
why.
know, right.
Now you know why. I'm a Libran myself, so someday you'll have to tell me what that means, being a Libran. But that's all right. I won't put you on the spot now.
Okay, I can tell you that in Libras, you're always in your head. You're
Oh,
always out
okay
there a
then.
lot.
Yeah, okay.
Make
That
sense?
that that sums it up. That sums it up. That sums it up, girl. All right. So I've heard you say there that you've been through quite a bit of training in different areas. You see a lot of what you do in terms of communication, but you also have done training in massage. You've done in healthcare. You've talked about pelvic health and those various areas. So to talk a little bit about your journey as a healer and as an entrepreneur, where would you say your journey started for you, and what, if anything, kind of put you on that path?
Okay, my journey started just about 10 years. Well, actually, yeah, going on 11 years now.
Mhm,
When I was pregnant with my fourth child,
mhm,
and I've always been a person who always into fitness and whatnot. So I was in a women's only Facebook group, and they were talking about jade eggs
okay.
and jade eggs and how any woman should have a jade egg. So I did my own research and I came across one of the vanguards in the industry. Her name is 𝐶𝐢𝐬𝐳. I purchased a book from her and my first jade egg. And so pretty much the jade egg, what is famous for out there, even now, the great marketing about jade egg is for vaginal toning. Okay,
Mhm,
so so that's the purpose why I got it. And
mhm,
then when I purchased the book and I started to read it, I was totally blown away because I found that the holistic way of using the yoni egg, the jade egg, and it was not just about vaginal toning. And then when I started to use the egg, I was blown away again because at that time, uh, being a mother of four, my pelvic floor muscles were pretty much almost like shattered from going, having different pregnancies. And my fourth child, I actually was the first child that I had a day job, a desk job, I should say. And so I did a lot of sitting with him.
mhm,
And although with all three of my other babies, vaginal births, my daughter, she was actually a breech baby, a breech, so she came out bum first. All of these babies I had vaginally. And then this last one, I had to get a C-section,
mhm,
because I wasn't active and I wasn't doing the things that I normally would do. And so it was like a healing coming from him. But then when I started to use the egg, at that time I used to bleed 10 to 14 days a month. My mother had told me, Katrina, as a young girl, she's like, it's a family trait. And so you prepare yourself, you're going to have to get a hysterectomy once you hit a certain age. But I was always rebellious from very young. So I was like, no way. But clearly, having a
mhm,
10 to 14-day period every month, I was heading in that direction. I hadn't been diagnosed with any particular issue, but I was clearly heading in that direction. And after using the yoni egg, jade egg for approximately 6 weeks, my period went down to 7 days, then it went down to five, and then I'm now presently down to just a 3-day period.
mhm,
So when I saw the transformation in myself, and then also at that time, I was in an abusive relationship as well. And in this abusive relationship, over time, I would leave and end up back in the situation. But when I started to use the jade egg consistently, it brought my attention to my womb space, which is for women, that's our power source. So it helped me to tap into my power source in a sense. And from the inside out, I started to love myself fiercely, like I've never done before. And I felt a courage grow inside of me where then I recognized, Katrina, you deserve better than this. and I took the necessary steps, and I was able to leave that abusive relationship for just over 4 year abusive relationship. So when I saw that transformation within myself, I started to tell other girlfriends, you need to get a deal at Jade Egg. And they were like, really, really, what's this all about? I said, well, this is what you do. And they were like, what, where? you know? And so there was a lot of like, up to now, actually, I still get a lot of squeamish women. But
Because I
then,
want to talk about that. So keep
okay,
going.
yeah. So then from there, I said, okay, Katrina, okay, people, you need to take this on. You need to approach this a little differently. And then I had a dream one night. I was in a room with hundreds of women, and we were wearing all these beautiful flowing dresses, and we were dancing and crying and hugging and laughing, and the floor was like glowing. So I was in front of the women, and I looked behind me, and there was a silhouette of a jade egg on the screen. So when I woke, I was like, you need to probably start doing some workshops, take this a little different. And from there, in May 1st, 2012, that's when I went and registered Waves of Bliss.
Mhm.
And that's where my journey started.
Okay. All right. So that's I like the fact that you mentioned just now the reaction that people have, because that's part of one of the things I wanted to ask about. Your business is not one that you can go anywhere and talk about and not have people react weirdly. And I'm not just talking, let's say that it's men who react strangely, it's women who have the body parts that you are dealing with who act strangely when you wanted to talk about this object, this tool, this thing that you can use to help yourself. And I will tell you, I remember years ago at one of the home shows, I think it was still fairly new. No, it was at the Girlfriends Expo.
Yeah.
And I remember going with a group of friends, so it's all girls around, grown women. And when we saw the table, first we stopped because we were curious with the name. And then we had that same reaction. I'm sorry, this goes where? You're supposed to do what? This? No, you must be crazy. So, how has it been for you building your business and really convincing people to realize the role and the purpose and that they need to take this seriously?
It's been tough. It has been
Mhm.
tough, but because I lived through the transformation of seeing myself move from broken in a sense to whole, I persevere. And I'm going to tell you, Marjorie, I have more clients in the US, in Canada, UK, and I have clients out there that would say, why you don't come to the US and live? Your business would go through the roof. But honestly, Marjorie, building the business here in Barbados, in this region in the Caribbean, has helped me to really dig and hone it, because it is such a taboo here. There's so much skepticism,
Mhm.
blockages, that I just had to dig and find new ways of trying to get through to people, getting them to understand, to educate, to build awareness, to help them to take off that veil of shame, to
Mhm.
discuss. So it's and I don't even believe I've really scratched the surface. I
Yeah.
can see a difference already, but I still get like, what? It's like, come a little closer, let me tell you. But I'm telling you, they're
Yeah.
always intrigued. They're always
Yeah.
intrigued. And I actually would have clients, I think it was about last year, a client who told me that she first met me at Girlfriends Expo years ago. And she did all her research all those years. I said she came forward and said she was not ready. So, so it's a case of planting seeds,
Mhm.
making sure that the information that I share is credible. It's integrity is extremely important, because it's just like breaking new ground in Barbados and in the region. Help getting women to to understand, like, you do not have to have cramps during your cycle. You do not have to have a pelvic dysfunction, because we as women were often told, when you have cramping cycle, oh, that's supposed to happen. That's how it's supposed to be. As
It's not,
women, yes,
you're
it's
totally
normal.
normal. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's common, but it's not normal. Anytime your body is is crying out like that in pain,
Mm.
is trying to get your attention. Something needs to be addressed. So, I've had to constantly redo and cater and custom my messages, and it never stops. Just
Mm.
last month, I went through a rebranding for Orgasmik Intelligence. So it never stops. It never
Yeah.
stops because once I make some leeway, then meet another group that I have to tailor it and come again. Yeah, so it's been, I actually would never have changed it anyway else,
Mhm.
because now I have a clientele from the US who follow me because they're not getting this kind of detailed information, this type of information from others who are doing this similar work in US.
Yeah. And you said it's your passion. So, of course, your approach to it may be different than the person who's engaging in it simply because to them it's a fad or it's a way to make a quick buck or
Yes.
something like that. And I can recognize you're right. In the Caribbean, there is really a lot of reluctance to talk about certain issues, and women don't say certain things in public, and they don't even say certain things to family. Maybe they may say to a very close female friend that they're having this issue and so on. So there is still a lot of education that's needed to really help us to understand what is okay to talk about and what we should
Yes.
have no
Hmm.
shame feeling
Agreed.
towards our bodies.
And it's changing, it's changing,
Yeah.
Marjorie, because I'm hearing more women groups
Mhm.
popping up, and they're inviting me to come and have conversations, or
Yeah.
they're forming their own conversations, and I see advertising. I was like, good, I like
Yeah.
that. We're
Yeah.
talking. That's what we need to do, because we as women, we like to stay in our little cocoons, our little shelter, thinking like I'm the only one going through this. But so many times in workshops, when I have a group of women and somebody speaks about it, it's like, you going through that? And
Yes.
I always remember when I had a workshop, I was one of the only women who was of color in the workshop.
Mhm.
So most of the women were Caucasian. And, these women from Europe were speaking about things that I had experienced. So I was like, okay, so, we women, we
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
talk because we
Everywhere.
share so many experiences. We don't have
Mhm.
to go through things alone. We really don't.
Mhm.
So having them
And
in safe spaces, talking about
yeah.
them in safe spaces, that's a very important. Safe spaces.
And so it's also important to recognize what represents a safe space and how to
Yes.
create a safe space. So let me ask you this. What are some of the perhaps signs or signals that you could say to women, to those who may be listening now or when they're listening to the recording, if you are having this happening to you, maybe you should get something checked. What are some of those things that you could think of you would suggest to people?
Well, I could take up the entire hour, but basically, like the most common things
Yeah.
of painful sex. That's an
Mhm.
indication that there's some kind of pelvic dysfunction. Heavy bleeding and cramping during your cycle. That's not normal.
Mhm.
That's not normal. Um, if you women who are suffering from a prolapse, organ prolapse, pelvic organ prolapse. So it may be uterine prolapse. And so when they're walking, they feel as though a ball is actually in their vagina.
Mhm.
That's not normal. That means something is coming down into the vaginal canal.
Mhm.
Even in sitting, if you are lying down and you roll from your back to your side and you get a pain in your hip area, your pelvic area, that's an indication you may have some pelvic dysfunction. So you need to get it rectified. If you have cramping in between cycles, or if your cycle has been missing for extended period of time, unless you are perimenopausal or actually menopause. So, these are all signs. There's so many things that, yeah, that we just take for granted, think like, okay, I'm getting old, or I'm a woman, this is supposed to happen.
Mhm. And we just, as I say, we just take it for normal. We
Yeah.
just assume it's like
Yeah.
simple. A lot of people assume that pain is normal. You have pain in your joints, you have pain when you sit too long, you have pain when you squat. That it's normal. It happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it
Not
happens
think.
all the time,
Yeah.
then you need to get it checked out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Not recognizing that sometimes there is change that you can make and something you can do differently. Sometimes it's changing diet, sometimes it's taking action. It is sometimes the activity and so on. As you mentioned, the
Yes.
difference of when you were sitting versus when you were more active with your
Hmm.
last baby and so
Yes.
on.
Very true.
Yeah. All right. So tell me, how are you kind of getting the word out? How are you branding your businesses? Because you have more than one business. So for
Yes.
all the time that I have been hearing you, and when I've been seeing you on Facebook, I've seen you on here as well. I've always assumed it was just one business, but in kind of getting ready for this, I realized that there are different things that you're doing. And I know that you talk about the different kinds of activities that you do, and you share about it and invite people to participate and so on. So tell me a little bit how you have been able to kind of create your brand and kind of keep getting it out there to everyone.
Okay, well, first, the little history. Waves of Bliss
Yes.
was that's the founding, that's the groundation of everything.
Right.
And Orgasmic Intelligence was birthed after Waves of Bliss. So, but at first, it was both. Orgasmic Intelligence was the system on the
Mhm.
Waves of Bliss, but Waves of Bliss, we specialize in women's pelvic health, massage
Mhm.
therapy. Uh, uh, well, that's the crux of it there. We do vaginal steaming as well. And so I found, so Orgasmic Intelligence now, however, that is a system, as I mentioned, it's a system which teaches you how to use your six senses and your sexual energy to heal and empower yourself. So we look at active self-love, we look at sexual dysfunction, the art of orgasm. And so I found that when people were coming to Waves of Bliss to get a massage and they saw something about orgasm, they were like, now what kind of massage am I coming for? So so everything was on the one, and then so I think it was like about 2 years ago. Yeah, I
Mhm.
decided to separate the two, so they
Mhm.
became two separate companies. But
Okay.
they're all, yeah. But this was separating of the services for better understanding, for clarity and
Mhm.
whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah. So using
So,
ways. Mhm.
okay,
I
well, I
was
was
going to
going
say,
to go into more about waves of bliss because then I'm saying from the activities you just mentioned there, then under waves of bliss are really the ones that I've been seeing you promote more. I see that more often, even though I've seen the name orgasmic intelligence a lot
right.
more. But so tell us a little bit more about those services that you offer under waves of bliss. You just started mentioning them, so just tell us a little bit more
Right.
about that.
So massage therapy. So we do all types of massages.
Mm.
That both men and women. Men relate. Nothing for the men, but yeah, we massage women, men, children. So we begin to see a more mature clientele as well come for massages, and we also do vaginal steaming at Waves of Bliss, and that's obviously for women, and it's an ancient healing technique modality that I've been trained in, and it's actually a global trend now. But in Barbados, it's relatively new, although I'm seeing more women popping up offering these services. And that's where the woman, obviously, if she suffers from basically heavy bleeding, cramping during the cycle, PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids, vaginal insensitivity, meaning that they're not as, so basically vaginal rejuvenation, any issue, vaginal dryness, she can come and she sits over the pot of steaming herbs. The medicinal property from the herbs rise up into the steam, going to the vaginal canal, into the bloodstream, and it helps. And people say like, how does that help? But it's a very therapeutic modality that has, I've seen great results in it. I've had my first baby of a client. She was having issues with fertility, and
Mhm.
after a few treatments, about 3 months, then she said, "Katrina, I'm no longer coming to you." I'm like, "Why? What?" She said, "I'm pregnant." And we did with happy dance, and because of COVID, however, I haven't been able to. She's ready to go live with her and show my first baby, and we're supposed to pose and whatnot. But with COVID, that's what. But I have my first baby through vaginal steam therapy, and we also do female pelvic evaluations. So
Mhm.
if you not a physiotherapist, okay, I'm not a physiotherapist. However, I can evaluate your pelvis to see if you are having an issue, pinpoint it, and once it's within my scope, give you routine work stuff to work with to help alleviate the issue. If it's outside of my scope, then I can refer you to for pet physiotherapist for more detailed work. So that's
Okay.
the gamut of. waves of
Some
bliss.
someone's asking if there are any fertility benefits. So I heard you mention just now that you've had your first baby and so on. So
Yes.
what are the, I guess, benefits?
Right.
What
Yeah.
are the
So
fertility benefits?
yeah, well, as I said, it helps with fertility.
Okay.
The vaginal steam and is help with fertility, and we have blends. So we have blends that depending on the issue that the woman is
Mhm.
experiencing. We have blends that are suited, tailored for them.
Okay.
So we have the fertility blends, fibroids. We have maintenance blends, yeah, of herbs. Yeah,
Okay.
and thanks to COVID, we have
Right.
also sourced some local herbs, so we're
Okay.
bringing some new blends into the market now. Yeah.
Now, is this something that, let's say, you start the process, you teach your clients to do it and they do it at home, or is it something that you recommend it's better that they come to you for the service?
Well, I actually offer training as well too. I do vaginal steaming for self care. So if you want to come and learn how to do it for yourself, I offer training for that, and I also offer certification for vaginal steam therapists. So if you want to be able to offer the professional service, I also offer training in that. But generally, clients will come. It's a moment to be pampered, so they enjoy. And so it's not just coming and sitting on a pot of herbs. There's also a whole therapeutic.
Hmm.
Um,
It's an experience.
it's a beautiful experience. You get a
Right.
womb massage. You get to relax. It's not just about coming and sitting. It's a whole helping to bring down to the point where you relax, where you relax enough to allow your body to take in the healing modality to start that healing process, or just to
Okay.
maintain, as a preventative care as well too. So yeah, so it's yeah. I teach women as well because reality. It can, if go outside your budget, if you are not able to afford to come each time, because I recommend that especially if you have a particular issue, at least every 2 weeks to come and have the steam done.
Mhm.
And there's some women that are not able to afford that. And you also sell the herbal blends. So sell you the herbal blends, and we could give you tips if you're not at the point where you want to come to do the training for self-help, to give you tips, because I know I'm in business. Business is about making money, but the core of my business is about, helping women to heal themselves. So I give you tips to go home and do it at home, safely at home. And that's
Yeah.
the opportunity for it. Do it safely at home, because the steaming is not just about sitting. You have to be seated like certain number of inches over the steam to avoid burns and scalds and stuff like that. So safety
Mhm.
is paramount.
Okay.
Yeah. So
We have a follow-up question about the fertility benefits where the person's asking if from egg. So I'm assuming they're asking if it was natural or if it was IVF.
oh no, natural.
Yeah.
No, yes, no, it's all natural.
Okay, cool. That's great.
Yeah. So you don't have to spend $20,000 on me. You do not have to.
So as you were talking, it occurred to me to ask you this because you mentioned it earlier with regards to the effects of sitting a lot and having desk-bound job and so on your pregnancy. What, if any, are the effects of desk-bound jobs generally on women, and what should they be doing differently to try to minimize some of that?
So you realize that I've been shifting quite a little bit while I'm in this interview, and it's not because I'm nervous or anything, but if you're going to be sitting, you need to shift every once in a while. Give the pelvis a chance, energy, blood to circulate. Sitting can cause your pelvic floor muscles, extensive sitting can cause your pelvic floor muscles to become too tight, believe it or not, or actually can cause them to be less toned. So you don't want to have too tight muscles nor muscles that aren't toned. You want toned muscles. So sitting can cause the bones in the pelvis, especially those women who like to sit with their legs crossed for hours on end. It can cause a shift in your pelvis, so bringing it out of alignment. So anytime your pelvis is not in alignment, that can
Mhm.
lead to a pelvic dysfunction. So in sitting, you also want to always make sure you're sitting on your sit bones. So
Mm,
always upright, not slouching. You don't want to slouch where you're sitting on your sacrum or your coccyx bone. You always
okay.
want to be sitting on those two sit bones. So if anybody has any issues finding those two sit bones, if you sit and you put your hands under your butt and you feel those two bones rubbing, oftentimes as little children, you would say, "Please, teacher, my butt hurting." And the teacher would say, "You need to get some fat on that butt."
Okay.
It's those sit bones. Yeah,
Okay.
it's those sit. That's so always sit erect. And if you see a chair that is slouched, so this is the front of the chair and this is the back. If
Mm,
it's sloped that way, sit on the edge of the chair, because what you're doing is you're putting your pelvis to lean back. So you
mm,
always want to be. So if you can put a cushion here to bring it up to a level, or
mm,
sit on the edge of the chair, and definitely try not to cross your legs as much. Shift, open those legs. I know we've been taught to ladies must close their legs, but sit, open your legs every once in a while. Obviously, if you're wearing clothing that would allow you to spread your legs a bit. But
mm.
but yeah, but definitely try not to sit. Take some breaks. Get up, move if you're unable to move, like we're doing in this interview.
Yeah.
Shift a bit, just rock. Yeah, those kind of just really simple things can help.
Okay, to try and keep the muscles active. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you mentioned about the crossing of the legs because I've heard for many years that that's not good for your hip and your pelvis and so on, but a lot of people still
No,
do
it's
it.
not. Still
Yeah.
good because it's ladylike. You see this? I'm a disruptor, Marjorie. I don't know if you realize it, but I'm a disruptor. Okay, so
Yeah.
this ladylike thing. I don't. A lot of the things that are ladylike, I don't prescribe to, because it actually can cause damage, physical damage to women.
Okay. There's also I don't know if it's a myth or a fact, but there's also a myth out there now that you've mentioned that about women wearing heels and that it can have an impact on your lower back. And so does
Yeah,
that in turn also have an impact on your pelvic health?
of course, because the pelvis, even your thighs, uh, all of that, they're connected. They're all connected. So even there's some women that have pain in their upper thighs, their inner thighs, and not realizing that it's linked to their somewhere in their pelvis. So it's all linked. So another thing with the heels is the point where the ball of the foot, just above the ball of the foot, is resting, getting most of the weight. That's right where the kidneys, the reflexology point for the kidneys. So that's another issue with wearing heels for extensive period of time as well too.
Okay. So there's a lot to
Yeah.
learn about our bodies that we don't know and we're not taught
Yes.
thinking
No, we're
about.
not. No, because we're socialized that it's ladylike to do certain things without questioning.
Yeah.
So we have to break out of
Yeah.
those rules and be unladylike. I said it.
So what kind of conversations do you think we need to start having in order to start breaking out of those molds, um, stop the shame, start being more aware? What kind of conversations or activities do we need to start engaging in more? Because I mean, you're starting the process, and what you're doing, but you're trying to really change an entire culture or a massive perspective that we have. So, what would you say are some of those things that we need to start doing?
We need to be truthful
Mm,
uh, with ourselves. We need to be honest with ourselves. We need to take away the veils, the facades. We need to be authentic. Um, Authentic, may say authentic, like people not really knowing who they are. But when you remove the veils and all the labels that have been put on you, and remove the shame, then you will see. I see it many times, especially in workshops, mostly in workshops. And I say workshops because that's when there's a group of women together. One on one, yes, I definitely see it, but I see it more in groups of women because there are other women there, and oftentimes is women that they're not familiar with at the beginning. I see most of them are like this. It's like literally, they're like this in the workshop, and then as
yeah.
time comes, I see them, and then I see them, and I then see different persons. Like, oh my gosh, is this the same person that walked in the room at the beginning, and they let it out, and at the end of it, they're just like, oh my gosh, this was such a fantastic experience. However, I would say 85% of the women after that workshop,
Mhm.
They may go back into their shells because they're not doing the techniques that they learned. They're not doing the work that they're supposed to, or they're not continuing to have these conversations. And so they go back in. It's a continuous process. So we need to continue having these safe spaces, creating safe spaces for women to just let down their guard and speak, knowing that it's not anything that's going to pop up on social media, afterwards, or somebody's going to shame them, or they're going to be
Mhm.
heavily judged. The spaces where women can just be are
Yeah,
critically important, critically important,
yeah.
critically important.
And I can agree with you because you are starting to see some of that, and definitely in other parts of the world, you're starting to see some of those conversations emerging. Because while you were talking there, I was actually thinking, like for example, you see more ads on television and so on with regards to products that are for women who have issues that when they sneeze, there's a little bit of urine that comes up.
Yes,
Because years ago, that would have been something that people would be ashamed of to even mention. But then celebrities started to feel comfortable in talking about it, and now people realize that, hey, this happens to everybody.
yes. Well, only thing I have with that is that they're not getting to the root of the issue. They're telling
Yeah,
women, okay, it's okay to walk around with pretty much
yeah,
adult pampers instead of
mm,
dealing with the weakness of your bladder, which is, again,
mm,
taking the power away from women. Women,
yeah,
when we focus here and deal with these issues, whether it is on an energetic level or physical level, when we deal with our womb issues, our pelvic issues, we see a metamorphosis.
mhm,
It's a transformation that happens. So telling women, okay, yes, go ahead and buy these products. No, conversation is out there. We're talking more
yeah,
about it, but it's now taking it on a deeper level to help women to
mm,
realize, like, the fix is not to go and buy adult pampers. The fix is to deal with the weakness in your pelvic floor
okay.
muscles, with your bladder.
So the
Yeah,
conversation needs to go further because what we're doing
definitely.
then, as you're saying, is just kind of putting a plaster. We're just dealing with the surface. We're dealing with a symptom and not the real problem or the real issue at hand.
Yeah,
Okay. All
correct,
right. That's
correct.
good to know. That's a good way of thinking about it. So one of the things that I know when you talk about things like chakras and healing and that kind of psychic energy, it is often said that the center of all our intelligence comes from the groin area. So when I am hearing you say or mention your system that talks about orgasmic intelligence, I'm immediately thrown back to thinking about that and to really see that that is based and built on an ancient system and ancient wisdom. So tell us a little bit then about that because you started talking about it, but then I asked you to go down the road to talk about waves of bliss. So
Right.
talk a little bit more about that orgasmic intelligence for us.
Right. So, orgasmic intelligence is a system I created
Mm.
based on ancient teachings, and so it's nothing new. Okay, I want to make it clear, it's nothing new. What I've done is just packaged it, making it more relevant, more conventional, based on ancient teachings. So, it's using your six senses and your sexual energy to heal and empower yourself. So, you will hear of the five senses. So, you know the five senses. The sixth sense is intuition. So that's the six senses and your sexual energy to heal and empower yourself. So that's the basis of it. It's wrapped up in active self love, effective interpersonal communication, orgasm, the art of orgasm, which is orgasmic intelligence. What we've done is we've expanded the definition of orgasm. So yes, orgasm of the genitals, that's part of it, but we've expanded it where you can understand, you can experience this orgasm through any part of your body through opening your senses. So you can have that same euphoric feeling by watching through your eyes a beautiful sunset or sunrise, smelling your coffee on a morning. Many people love coffee, but they just guzzle it down because it gives them that rush to get up and go. But how many of you have actually, like, mm, smell that coffee and really immerse yourself and, like, feel it going through your lungs and permeating throughout your body? Not the sip, but just the smell of it. And then now the taste of it, tasting it now is, it's like touching something soft like a feather or silk, and feeling it and just feeling that euphoric sensation, feeling breeze pass against your skin. These are all orgasmic experiences, and they actually call it orgasm as opposed to orgasm. I've coined the word
Okay.
orgasm. So it's experiencing this euphoric feeling anywhere throughout your body, and how it has helped my clients, particularly women, because I have many women who would say, they've never had an orgasm, or they are anorgasmic, meaning that they are unable to have orgasm. But in orgasmic intelligence, we teach you there are different types of orgasms, there are different intensities. So you focusing on what your girlfriend is saying or what you're seeing on those movies and stuff like that, that's not your orgasm. Your orgasm may be totally different. So getting women to understand, okay, you can have this euphoric feeling through opening your senses. So then it takes that focus from away from the genitals. So they're more relaxed. And then, oh my gosh, they have that first vaginal orgasm. And they're like, oh my gosh. I'm like, but you always have been having orgasms, but it's just not been how you've been hearing other stories from other women. So it's getting women, particularly, to recognize their own orgasm, feeling comfortable with it, stop comparing, and from
Mhm.
there, opening their senses and relaxing and experiencing that orgasm helps them
Mhm.
down to have the orgasm, more intense orgasm.
Okay. How challenging has it been to get that concept across? Because I have to tell you, even as you were explaining it there, I'm thinking to myself, what? Orgasm from coffee? Wind passing? That it sounds so different than anything that I've ever heard along those lines before. So how much of a challenge have you had trying to convince people who like me are a little skeptical at first?
Well, in the workshop, I break it down. I break it
Okay.
down. So in the workshop, I take you through an exercise where we go through each of the senses.
Okay.
So we stay in that sense, and I tell them, okay, so immerse yourself into what you're feeling when you're smelling the whatever object or whatever fragrance or smell of chosen in the workshop.
Mhm.
And they spend time in it. So it's about slowing down
Mhm.
and immersing yourself into the experience.
Okay.
And then, so then they've noticed like some women, I feel a tingling in my neck, or tingling in my stomach. I was like, okay, sit with it. Just relax with it. Stay there. Then we move on to seeing something. Oftentimes they ask them what's their favorite color, and so they will when they open their eyes, they see their favorite color. I said, what was the first feeling, the first sensation you felt when you saw your favorite color? And by then, I'm taking them through the stages, right? So their eyes are closed. The eyes are actually the last thing that they open up. That's the
Mm.
last sense that they experience. So I take them through the taste, the smell, the touch, all of those ones first, where their eyes are closed, and they're able to immerse more into it. So when they come to the eyes, it's like it's easier than to detect what was even a euphoric, even a tinkly, a little niggling something that they never realized has happened before. So I take them through a process in workshops, working one on one with clients. But speaking to people, I would have when I'm having talks, I hear people say like, "Oh yeah, I remember when um, I had goosebumps." I was like, "That's an orgasm. That's an orgasm."
Okay. All
I was
right.
like, "Okay, yeah." So it's kind of out of the
All
box.
right. Now that you put it
Getting
that way, it's like, okay, all right. Because we've all had that when something happens and you have that feeling, it's like, oh, and you're saying to yourself, that's goosebumps. Okay, so
it's
that's
an
the name that
orgasm.
okay, all right, okay. All right, folks. So you heard it here first. All those goosebumps you're talking about, you know what's really going on in your body. All right. Okay. So let me ask you this, because the way you've described it, and you mentioned that when we were getting ready for this session, that sense of being in the moment and kind of slowing down. Do you or have you seen that perhaps how we live our lives and that constant rushing and going has really had an impact on our ability to really use our senses the way we should be?
Especially we as women. because the feminine energy is a being energy where you have to tone it down. You have to come to that point of relaxation and just being. The
Mhm.
masculine energy, excuse me, is a doing. So this is society is very much hinged on the masculine energy. So we as women were pushed, and we're fighting for equal rights and justice, and we are cultivating that masculine energy. And believe you me, every man, every woman has both masculine and feminine energy in them, down to the chromosomes, the
Yeah.
XY, XX. So that's the biological side of it.
Yeah.
We all have that, both masculine and feminine energies. But we as women, men, believe you me, as masculine as the most masculine man is, men know how to tune out and find time for self. So they still are, in a sense, whether they know it or not, are still cultivating, like nurturing that feminine inside them. I mean, they may not want to admit it or call it that,
Mhm.
but we women seldom, because we are taking care of the children, we are going into the offices, we're running our businesses, we are offering services, volunteering in the church, in the community, taking care of grandparents, and we're there for everyone else. So we're always doing, 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 and from the time we're able to just be, what happens? We fall asleep, and
Yeah.
that's not being, that's sleeping, that's getting rest, which is vital too. But that being able as a woman to cultivate your feminine energy is extremely important. And dare I say, I honestly believe that's, I haven't done any studies, but
Mhm.
just working with women, I believe that's why we're having these young girls in school who are being more aggressive, and you're finding them fighting more because they're not taught how to cultivate the feminine divine within.
Mhm.
But the
Okay.
society is pushing that masculine energy. So yeah, we as women have to. It sets us out of balance pretty much. That's what it does when we as women don't cultivate that feminine energy. It brings us out
Okay.
of balance.
Okay. There's someone making a comment that we have much more to do, so taking care of self often comes last for us because we're focusing on all of those other things that we have to do.
Guess what? I'm a mother for, okay? So mother for, let me tell you a tip, okay? Those mothers out there, whether you have one, two, three, four, 5, or 10, I taught my children from a very young age that when they see, you can choose whatever it is. I had a ribbon, I would tie it on my door. So when y'all see mommy's ribbon tied on the door, and if you don't have a ribbon, if you see mommy's door closed, that's mommy's time. And obviously, you're not going to, when you're breaking them into it, you're going to start with an hour. Of course not.
Mhm.
Start with 5 minutes. You tell them, well, don't interrupt mommy unless it's an emergency, somebody's dying, there's house is burning or something like that.
Yeah.
And start in little intervals. When I used to work in corporate Barbados, just up to just over 2 years ago, I used to, before I started to do this kind of work, this self work, whenever I came in from the office, as I came home, I had to just lay down and do nothing, recalibrate for about 5 minutes. And then I was able to get up and do stuff. And then when I started to do these studies, I realized that's actually a practice.
Mm.
And it's what I teach now, and it's called it's being time, where you go and just cultivate that feminine energy. Just
Mhm.
be, clear your mind so you're not sitting down thinking of what to do next when you get out of bed. It's like clearing your mind of everything that went before you, everything that's happening afterwards, and just be in that present moment for a few minutes, and you will see what a difference that will make on your
Mm.
life.
Okay. All right. And so, we know that because we always hear that saying as well that you cannot pour from an empty cup. You hear that you need to put on your own oxygen mask first, all of those things. But you're right that in spite of that, there often is still a lot of instances where we forget that and we get caught up in the doing and we forget about the importance of being. Yeah. So, what if anything would you say to our audience, maybe both male and female, um, are some guidelines that you would suggest they bear in mind when they're thinking about their health and their wellness going forward?
For women,
Mm,
anytime you feel any kind of discomfort, pain, strain sensation in your pelvic area, don't dismiss it.
mm,
Pay attention to it. As far as your wellness, your power is your womb space. Why that is the womb space, and in men it's called the dude space. Okay, but men know the power of the dude space. Believe me, they always focus there.
mm,
But women, that is it's called the power space because in Chinese medicine, where the umbilical cord, that's your first sign of taste of life, where the
mm,
umbilical cord is by your navel. So that area there, that's considered your power space. But we as women, unfortunately, we cut off communication from our waist down for a variety of reasons. And we only pay attention to what's going on down there if there's an issue,
mm,
or something like that. But we need to focus by just simply lying down and bringing your attention to your womb space.
mm,
We get a lot of intuitive messages as women from our womb spaces if we just take the time to focus, to immerse, and listen.
okay.
So take some time, just simply by placing your hand, taking your hands and putting them over your stomach when you're lying down and just going to quietness and bring your attention. They say when you're meditation, bring your attention to your third eye. But I'm speaking about bringing your attention to your womb space. So just bringing your attention there, just very subtle yet profound practice. I would encourage every single woman to do that on a daily basis. Women, me time is vitally, vitally important. I can't express it enough.
Mhm,
We we give a lot, and we need to have that balance. And it's not a selfish act when you are giving back to yourself. It's just you're just paying attention to self. If you don't pay attention to self,
mhm,
who's going to pay attention to you? And if you don't pay attention to self, are you going to be there to pay attention to whoever else you're paying attention to?
mm.
So
Absolutely.
balance is key. Balance is key. And when I speak about balance, I don't mean necessarily that is even as a like balance as way, but there's sometimes where you're going to need more of this and less of something else, and then
Mm,
it will change. But keeping that balance is vitally important. For the men, your health, or just tell you that, especially men in a relationship, because it's understanding women. Let your partner be a woman. I would hear many men would come in and uh, say that they after a day's hard day of work, and they're ready to at that time make love or whatever the case is, and she's not able to, she's tired, she's uninterested and stuff like that. But I will tell you, men, this is my tip to you: allow your woman to be a woman. If you want to get more tips on that, feel free to reach out to me. Allow her to be a woman is key. If in a relationship she feels as though she has to, for whatever reason, okay, and it is not judgment, for whatever reason she feels as though she has to accentuate that masculine energy more, it takes away from that feminine energy. Okay, so allow her to be. You do the cooking sometimes, make sure you help her clean, help with the children, help, allow her to be sometimes, just let her relax sometimes, and you do. It's so simple. Believe me, it's not rocket science. That's my
okay.
health tip for men.
Yeah,
They say a happy wife is a happy life. I say a happy spouse is a happy house.
yeah, yeah. Regardless of the gender of the spouse, understood.
Regardless.
All right, so that's important, and I asked you that question that way because I really wanted you to kind of highlight the fact that your therapy and your service and so on is not just for women, but you also deal with couples as well.
Yes, couples as
Yeah.
well. Yes, yes,
So
yes.
if any, go ahead.
No,
You're
I'm
about
saying
to say.
yes with couples. No, I'm saying with couples. Yeah, and that's growing. That
Mhm.
had a very slow start, but that's growing now because the women would be eager, like, yes, come. And I said, but if it's a couple session, you're, or I would have a client, and we've gone to the point where, okay, so we've dealt with this, so we need to invite your partner,
Mhm.
and the partner would not be willing to come. But now I find men now are approaching me and saying, "Are you doing couple sessions?" Well, I want, so that's growing. It's growing.
Mhm.
I'm very
All
happy to
right.
say.
And so, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, where do they find you? How do they get in touch with you? If they want to find out more information about what you do, where do they find you?
Okay, you can get me on Facebook. So Orgasmik Intelligence. So that's Orgasmic with a K. Orgasmic. You see the K there? Orgasmic with a K
Yeah.
Intelligence. And Waves of Bliss, both
Mhm.
on Facebook, IG. Orgasmic Intelligence is on YouTube. You can go onto our website. Waves of Bliss is wavesofblissbb.com. And Orgasmik Intelligence is exactly that, orgasmic with a K intelligence.com. For yoni eggs, so those who want to purchase yoni eggs, you can go to myyoniegg.com. Uh, our contact numbers of direct area code 246-538-4276. That number goes active from Sunday. Okay. But if you want to reach me right now directly, is area code 246-266-9966, and you can get me on WhatsApp as well. So Facebook, IG, YouTube, we have websites, so we're there. So you can hit us up all over. You can find us on Google Maps if you want to find us. We have, yeah, just type it in and you'll see everything. We're there.
Yeah. All right. So they
Making it
can
easy
find
for you.
you there. They can find you also here on LinkedIn. Just look
On
up your
LinkedIn,
name.
yes,
They can
yes,
just find just look up your name as well if they don't remember the name of the business. But it's fairly easy to remember. It really, I'm telling you, that's the one that stuck with me. Orgasmic Intelligence. So you just look that up and you will find it. And that allows you to really get any information or any additional questions that you have. I'm just looking here. We had one person who was questioning with regards to the fertility, whether or not the yoni egg had any impact on that. Is that a
yes,
okay?
yes,
So
yes. The
short
yoni egg, yes, 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 yes,
and of course, they now have the contact information, so everyone can get in touch with you, reach out to you online, and really get any clarification or
yes.
any additional
And we also
information.
do workshops. So I
Ah,
travel and do workshops. So we've done workshops in Miami,
mhm.
Jamaica, as well. So if you want to bring me down to anyone, your island, your country, contact me, and yeah, we can start the ball rolling.
Okay. All right. So that's good to know. So we've had a very good discussion here. I'm seeing a note that we have to check and see whether or not we're going to be allowed to leave it on LinkedIn because of the content. But I think that what we were talking about was definitely something that we really needed to talk about. And I think we need to have more of these discussions happening and so on. So whether this is the space that it stays or not, it is the kind of conversation that needs to happen. We all need to get comfortable talking about our bodies and recognizing that we're not just body parts, but it's a whole, and you need to have everything working as it's supposed to in order
Call
for the
this.
body
Yes.
to come. It's holistic. It's a holistic approach to health. All right. So this has been a wonderful session, my dear. Thank you very much for agreeing to come on and talk about this. I imagine that it's a difficult topic for some people to hear because they perhaps weren't expecting that kind of topic. And I knew that it may have that kind of approach. Some people may feel that way about it, but I felt that it was something that was useful. And definitely just the fact that you have this kind of business that has to be a struggle almost to get people to see beyond the embarrassment that they feel just hearing the topic and really taking the information, taking the knowledge, the learning, and really internalizing it and seeing how they can make themselves better was definitely what I felt it had to be a part of this. So,
Yeah.
to all of you who are listening, thank you very much for joining us, whether you're listening to us live or in the recording. And I want you to remember that LinkedIn Local Barbados has these online events every Thursday at 5 p.m. And every week we try to have interesting discussions where you can learn, you can grow, and take the opportunity to really strengthen our LinkedIn and our business community. Please keep in touch with us. reach out to us using the hashtag LinkedIn Local Barbados or LinkedIn Local Caribbean. Also visit our page, LinkedIn Local Caribbean, and our website. Look out for our next event. Register early, and we look forward to seeing you next week. So take care, travel safely, stay safe, and stay sane. And we're getting closer to coming out of lockdown, people. It's going to be on, heading into the new normal. So take care. Good evening.